emergency attendance right on time. I would also love to say here that the picture that so many Nigerians are painting on the X is not actually a good image for the country. They are trying to demarcate Nigeria for whatever reason. We understand there are some lapses here and there, but then it happens everywhere in the world. We talk about Senna climb. The accident that took the life of Diogo Jota of Liverpool, it happened that it took some minutes before you saw emergency workers coming to respond. So the Nigerian case is not a different one. Now,
you saw, at least you saw response, accident response, medical team arrived at the scene, cordon off the area, try to see, what happened and what didn't happen, see who they can assist. But in Nigeria's instance, you don't get to see people, medical team arriving after an accident happened. Nobody will be at the exact scene where it happened, but at least there will be a call in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in 15 minutes. Response, medical response, arrive. But here we don't get to see. You talked about Diogo Jota. Diogo Jota was far on the highway, and in record time you could see that the team arrived. They were not there at the scene, but they arrived at the scene when it happened. I'm not too sure most people, Nigerians, have on their phone, emergency numbers of, of medical facility team to aid people when these things happen. We have to be very frank about it.
Definitely, but then I still insist, in the case of Anthony Joshua, now this thing happened not within the metropole. It is the outskirts town. And that is the same thing that happened with Diogo Jota. It didn't happen within the metropole where you say, okay, emergency workers who could easily step there. But then all this thing was happening within the space of 15 minutes in the case of Anthony Joshua before. First off, when it happened, we saw passers-by and sympathizers coming, though these are not professionals, all right, which their action may even lead to complication in some of those guys that got involved. But then they did the needful at that point in time, trying to evacuate some of the survivors and then bring Anthony Joshua out. But the emergency response team, they arrived within the space of 15 minutes before taking him to the hospital. So I think for me, we need to improve. I agree.
We didn't see any ambulance. We didn't see anybody. We only saw road safety, not a medical response. Well, that's for another day, but I think it's awful and not a good scene, no doubt about it. We need to see medical response and not a traffic response, so to say. Well, let's go to some charity news, and of course it has to do with the fact that there's a new world champion in chess. Magnus Carlsen, the world's #1 chess player, only yesterday won the World Blitz Championship in Doha. This after victory in a slightly longer rapid format to secure his 20th world title. He's 35 years of age, and he just can't stop winning.
Definitely a great one for him, a big result because he almost lost out in this particular one, especially in the semi-final where he lost about 3 games. Finished third. At some point, he looked as though he was not going to, of course, achieve this particular feat, but then he held on. And of course, got to the final and beating, a lesser experienced player who is 21. As well, for me, I think his fame continued to grow. As he's getting older, of course, more experience coming his way. And of course, we'll celebrate him for such massive feats.
Massive feats, no doubt about it, for Carlsen from Norway, mentioned as a champion in chess. What's chess status like in Nigeria?
Well, I think it's a very long discussion if we delve into it, though we are doing things here and there, but not as expected, maybe taking it big. In terms of chess, I think we have 1 or 2 players that we can actually say they are growing gradually, but then we haven't yet stamped our dominance as to say that chess is one of the sports that we can actually beat our chest and say we've come of age, although we might just get there in the future, but for now it's more like an exhibition sport.
Chess Federation of Nigeria really has to be seen up and running. Activities must go on. There must be competition both on the local scene, aimed at discovering top-notch chess players, and of course trying to put them through national, international, and continental and international competitions as well. This year is come to an end in the next few hours, and there is a review in the various sporting fields, and This is a season where awards are given, and the American tennis star Coco Gauff has topped the list with $33 million US, becoming the highest paid female athlete in the world at 2025 at just the age of 21. Mike, Coco Gauff, no doubt about it, moving up on the ladder in terms of mega box, $21 million US.
Definitely a great one for Coco Gauff, $33 million
US,
which for me I think is massive. Not just what she earned on the court, in participating in some of these tournaments in the world of tennis, but then some of this earning could also understand that came from adverts, all right, partnership with other companies as well. So I think both on the court and off the court, she's actually amassing a whole lot of fortune.
Talking about Coco Gauff, number one of the highest paid athletes in the world right now, and it looks like tennis is the vehicle to riches, if you ask me, because second on that list is Aryna Sabalenka, world number one in female tennis.
Definitely, and that is why I say the earning of
33 million to now to 30 million for Aryna Sabalenka.
Yeah, just slightly $3 million difference between her and Coco Gauff. Aryna Sabalenka, you expect her to, rack up the number one spot, but it doesn't just work out that way. Why? Because she was. She had a very great year, winning about 4 major trophies. So naturally, you should expect her to, top the chart. But then it's not about what she won on the court. It goes beyond that. But of course, the expansion of networks of advert and of course sponsors that you have and brands that are keen behind you. And of course, not a bad one for her, finishing second for the year, just a $3 million difference. Separating her the first, and a not too bad one for, the number two. But I think for me, the most surprising Enna was, freestyle skier Ellen Gu, who placed fourth with about 23. The reason why I'm surprised about, freestyle making the top 10, especially ranking 40, because not too many, knows her as a tennis player, especially in the WTA. Not that she's not good, but then climbing to fourth above other big names, I think I'm quite shocked and surprised. But it is what it is. It goes beyond what happened on the court, down to the partner and sponsorship that she also has.
It's Yuletide, and of course, sports is one of the activities that keep people engaged, and of course, in a jolly mood. And in the United States of America, basketball is top notch because we saw the 76ers from Philadelphia go all the way to Memphis and defeating Grizzlies by 139 points to 136 points. 76ers, are they back, Mike?
Not really back. We'll just wait and see if they can also complement on this result in their next game, because I think they have not really started the season in the best possible way. But then the season is about to get even more tougher. A good one that they were able to pick a positive result early hours of this morning. But then they need to, of course, complement this effort in their next game.
Well, in the early hours of this morning, we saw the Celtics from Boston go all the way to Utah, and of course beat the Jazz by 129 points to 119 points. 10 points different for the away team there, Bolton Celtics.
Deserving of Bolton Celtic, who just went away from home to Utah Jazz at their own ground. I think they have a very good squad, and I listened to their coach a few hours even before that game, early hours of this morning, talking about the need for them to, of course, show more resilience, charging his players to step up their game, and I think that is what they did by going away from home to Utah Jazz.
Well, we saw LA Lakers in another loss at home. Detroit Pistons winning them out there, Mike. LA Lakers seem to be struggling. 106 points to 128 scored by the team from Detroit.
For Detroit, great result for them, but for the LA Lakers, I think it's time for them to step up big, because it hasn't been a perfect one for them. Not too many, envisage that Dayton Preston is going to beat them in that particular game. Taking a look at the way they were preparing ahead of that particular encounter, I thought maybe it was, it's going to be a win for them, but then they crumbled to the firepower of Piston. Not a good result at all for the LA Lakers.
While Lakers from Los Angeles lost at home, the Clippers from the same Los Angeles were able to beat their counterparts, Sacramento Kings. The Kings from Sacramento came to Los Angeles and lost. It was 131 points to 190 points. A good win there for the Clippers from Los Angeles. Do you say they are making up for what their neighbors, the Lakers, could not do?
Yeah, I think they were able to clip the wings of their opponent in that particular, match early hours of this morning. But they need to show more resilience. They need to follow this result up. You don't win today, you lose tomorrow. You lose next tomorrow, win the next one. It doesn't really take you far in this year's NBA. So I think they need to show more consistency despite the victory they enjoyed.
We'll be back in a short while. We'll take a break now. When we return from a break, there'll be more for you, especially in football. Here in Nigeria, the Premier League is ongoing, and same across the Premier League in England as well. It's getting hotter. Arsenal maintain their lead at the end of the year 2025 on the Premier League table. When we return from a break, we'll feed you with the details. Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. Don't forget that we just told you that the President of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has sent condolence messages to Anthony Joshua over the fatalities that occurred in an accident here in Nigeria a few days ago. And we stand by the President wishing Anthony Joshua a quick recovery as well. Now let's get to football. Mike, Premier League is ongoing here in Nigeria. A review of the Premier League matches for 2025 as we begin to exit in next few hours.
First and foremost, I think it's been a good start to the new Nigerian Premier Football League season for the outgoing year. We've seen teams show some resilience both home and away. We've recorded some away wins, more improvement from what we saw last time out. Although the Nigerian Premier Football League board under the leadership of Benga Elegbele has promised for a better Nigerian Premier Football League, and of course we are seeing lots and lots of improvement. We've seen team winning away from home, wrapping the year. I think Rivers United has been the biggest beneficiary because they sit 5 points clear above Nasarawa United. We've seen teams like Abia Warriors as well making statement of intent. But then I think the worst hit of the outgoing year for the first stanza of the season is the lives of Kano Pillar, who a traditional team here in the Nigerian Premier Football League, but they're actually struggling these days. So almost seated bottom rock on the league table. But so far, so good.
In the final game of 2025, they were able to beat their opponents by 3 unreplied goals.
Definitely, coupled with the fact that
because they have returned back with Kano.
Definitely, and I think that is more like what they need at this point in time. But then, despite the victory, they are still rocking the bottom of the table. I think they are the biggest loser for this first stanza, and the biggest gainer is Rivers United. In terms of the officiating, like I said, been a bit of improvement. So I give them 7% out of 10.
Wow. Talking about officiating, there have been pockets of, actually disagreements with the calls of the central referees that has led to some of these banishment from one ground to the other. Do you think referees really have acquitted themselves, given the fact that, yes, we understand they are working without the assistance of the video assistant referee, and sometimes maybe the fans do not understand, the interpretation of the laws.
The refereeing job is one of the hardest, but people might just think that it is that easy. It's not easy because, a lot of critics are out there trying to, of course, point accusing finger. And you know what? One thing about the game of football is that whenever you don't get to win, some fans who truly do not understand how this thing works, they begin to throw tantrums and blames to the officials. But I tell you, it is not an easy one to take, an action or a decision at the heat of a counter in the Nigerian Premier Football League if you are not that good as a center ref. So despite some of the lapses, I think there's a bit improvement. And for the fans as well, I think they need to learn, all right, go through the intricacies of what it takes to be a professional ref and then leave the job to them. Sometimes they understand the job better than you watching out there as a fan. Sometimes the fans are always engulfed with a whole lot of emotion, thereby jettisoning the real rules of the game. But the center ref, they are trained. This is their profession. They know what to do at the right point in time. But to you, who is watching, who is not that learned in terms of the rules of the game, you think that the refs is biased because he takes certain decisions. So for me, I think the supporters as well, they need to, of course, allow the ref do their job professionally.
Nigerian Premier League going to playing the last game a few days ago for the year 2025, and we've seen massive cash gift for Nigeria Tornadoes aftermath of their last win of the year 2025. The victory over Barrow FC saw 2-0 win at the Contemporary Stadium in Mina. Only on Sunday, I've seen them receive a cash prize of 1.4 million naira for the win. This looks like a handsome way of ending the year for Nigeria Tornadoes.
Definitely. All right. You see
an extra 1.4 million.
A great one for the team out there, and it's going to go a whole long way to, of course, spike them up to prepare massively ahead of the second stanza. Of course, it is the Yuletide period. Some of these little things could just be the spike, the motivation that these players need to, of course, continue their effort. And they are not doing bad at all. They are seated fifth, as the year comes to an end. Maybe just this little incentive can be the, extra ginger that is going to propel them to even double their effort in the second stanza of the league.
Well, away from the Premier League here in Nigeria, before we get to the league out there in Europe, especially in the Premier League in England, where matches are taking place just before the end of the year, let's take a trip to Morocco, where the African Cup of Nations is into the third round of matches in the group stages. For the group where we find the Super Eagles of Nigeria, Mike, the matches have been concluded in that group, and in one of the matches played there last night, we saw the Super Eagles of Nigeria beat their counterparts from Uganda, the Cranes of Uganda, by 3-1, effectively into the round of 16 for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Though they are qualified after 2 rounds of matches, but the last game saw them score goals with that's an easy delivery, despite the fact that what Nigeria saw on showcase looks like a second-string Super Eagles side.
I think great game for the Super Eagles. The only Achilles heel in their play so far is their inability to, of course, keep a clean sheet against some teams that you don't expect them to score against the Super Eagles. Away from that, I think it's been a good one for the Super Eagles. 100%, coming out of that group.
Look at the players that were introduced into the squad. Franco Onyedika, 2-goal scorer on the night. We've seen a new goalkeeper, Knockwell, in the post between the sticks for Nigeria, Francis Uzoho. Will you rate the performances of the new boys that were introduced into the squad? A lot of people say yes, this is the second string side of the Super Eagles. They didn't need the first string set because they have already qualified. Did these new boys, acquit themselves properly?
I think one or two. One of those is Rafael Onyedika. I think he's a great midfielder. Put up a humorous job yesterday. Of course, it just goes a whole long way to echo what I've been saying, that Rafael Onyedika, for me, I would play him ahead of players like Wilfred Ndidi in the middle of the park. He's doing great. I mean, I watch him every week, all right from his club side out there. Talking about Club Brugge, he's very, very great player. Defensively, in the middle of the park is good. And advancing forward in terms of, more like attack play as well is also good. So I rate him 8% in that yesterday's play because he scored, of course, a brace.
8%?
Yeah, 8/10. I rate him 8/10 in that game yesterday. Then you talk about Nadi, though he had a short, minute, but then within that short space of minute that Nadi came on, he was able to, of course, organize the midfield properly in a way and manner that allowed the Super Eagles to, of course, calm down the game as well. And for the man in between the stick, Francis Uzoho, I can't really, rate him because, for large part of the game, he was probably on holiday. The only time that he was called to duty, to action, that was when they got their, consolation goal.
Even in Group C, where the Super Eagles have Tanzania and Tunisia, while the Super Eagles are first in that group, Tunisia is come second after month of playing a 1-0 draw last night against Tanzania.
For Tunisia, looks more like a struggle for them. Against Tanzania, you expect Tunisia to beat them convincingly and, of course, take their second place position, but then they actually struggled. How far they can go in this competition remains to be seen.
In Group D, we saw third round of matches as well being played. Benin Republic lost to Senegal 3-0, while Botswana equally lost to Congo DR by 3-0. Senegal top, Congo DR second in that group, but something cheering. Benin Republic have won their first game in their history of playing the African Cup of Nations.
Good. I think that is the only consolation that they will be taking home, that they were able to win their first game at the African Cup of Nations. But then, if you see the Benin Republic side, I think they are improving gradually in terms of their football out there. No wonder they're able to win their first AFCON game. But then, it wasn't good enough for them to progress through to
they
the
could still stand by to see among whether they could come among the 2 or 3 best third place teams.
Definitely, they still stand a chance. Not time for them to pack their bags here, but they will be ready to see what happens. I expect them to go to the round of 16. At least let's see a bit of what they can do, because there seems to be an improvement since they got the services of former Super Eagles head coach, talking about Genero.
Botswana returns back to Gaborone without winning the winning a match in their history of playing the African Cup of Nations.
Big disappointment for Botswana. A lot of expectation heading into this competition. Even their president talked to the team, giving them a pep talk even before they jetted out of this African Cup of Nations. But then, such pep talk, encouragement, and advice is coming from their ex-players as well. It wasn't good enough for them to just scale through, and they continue to, find a way to stamp their foot in the African Cup of Nations. More like a case of deja vu for them.
Third round of matches take place later today in Group E. Equatorial Guinea will take on Algeria, while Sudan will take on Burkina Faso, which is a fancied match in this third round of games in Group E.
All these games are fancied match because it's at a critical point where all the result will matters in all these games today. So I think all these games are pretty much important, considering the fact that some teams are using to hope, to use the result of this game to, of course, cement their place in the next knockout, while some are also struggling to stay put. So all these games are very, very important game today.
Gabon will take on the defending champions Ivory Coast by 8 p.m. Nigerian time. Mozambique has Cameroon to contend with as well.
Gabon, I think it's a dead rubber game for them because they are already one of the teams that have already been knocked out of the competition. So I think just more like a ceremonial game for the Gabonese. They will be playing for pride, no doubt, but then there's no much emphasis to be staked on that particular game.
$10 million is at stake. Win the African Cup of Nations for 2025 and take home $10 million. So I'm sure these teams have their eye on that prize money and the title for the year 2025. Now, quickly, because of time, let's go to the Premier League in England, where we saw some interesting results last night. Burnley, as usual, lost at home to Newcastle 3-1. Were you surprised that Newcastle garnered all 3 points in this fixture?
I'm not surprised at all. Newcastle said they could be very good on a good day like that for them. And I think with Newcastle under Eddie Howe, you can't just write them off. They know how to get all these points, especially where they meet the average or the middle table teams. Talking
about average or mid-table teams, Bournemouth went all the way to Stamford Bridge and forced Chelsea to a 2-2 draw. You will say Bournemouth is an average side. They're going to Stamford Bridge and getting at least a point.
I think for Bournemouth, they just know how to play some of these big teams, especially teams like Chelsea. I talk about Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. They just know how to, get points against some of these teams. They took the lead first. Don't forget, before Chelsea now draw parity, and of course they took the lead again with just a few minutes after they scored their first goal via Enzo Fernandez. But then Chelsea could not hold on to that, as a long throw from the Bournemouth side into the 18-yard box of Chelsea actually caused them problem before was it Kluivert who just tapped in for their second goal to make it 2-2. So for Chelsea, I think a troubling time for Enzo Maresca, because out of 8 English Premier League played so far in a stretch, they are just able to win only one, and it tells on how the inconsistent Chelsea side has been so far this season.
Nottingham Forest has been inconsistent as well, losing at home to Everton by 2-0. Nottingham Forest that at the beginning of the season looked like a team that was going to be in the top 4.
Nottingham Forest, I think they just need to start thinking twice, because from the way it looks, they are just actually struggling as well. Everton as well, they are also struggling, but the Toons, they just had to do the needful by taking all 3 points. I just think that it was a balanced game and a game of equal strength and proposition.
West Ham 2, Brighton 2. Was this balanced game as well?
Definitely. West Ham, they've been, very good whenever they meet mid-table teams. And Brighton and Hove Albion, they have not been very good so far this season. This Brighton side, they just know how to play big games, especially the Manchester City games with United and Chelsea, Arsenal as well. But then for this season, I think they are actually struggling. A clear departure from what we saw for Brighton of last season. At this point in time, they were seated in between 10th and 8th position. But now you go to the league table where they are seated, more like a foul cry to the quality of this Brighton and Hove Albion side.
At Old Trafford last night, there was disappointment, hue and cry, because Manchester United could not beat bottom place side Wolves. It ended 1-1. What is happening to Amorim and Manchester United?
It's been the same case. It's been the same issue of struggling to win games, to see off games when it matters most. Manchester United took an early lead in that game because of the goals that came off the boot of Joshua Zirkzee. We thought maybe it was going to be more like a 3-0, 4-0 to Manchester United against a struggling Wolverhampton Wanderers side. But then, before you could say Jack, it was 1-1 and they held on. United had plethora of chances and the latitude of time to have, of course, won that game, but then they failed to sparkle at their home ground. Troubling time yet again for Ruben Amorim.
It wasn't the same case at Emirates Stadium in England, because Arsenal whitewashed Aston Villa by 4-1. It could have been 4-0, but for that goal scored just after it had gone 4-0 for the boys from the Emirates Stadium. Mike, Arsenal now has 5-point lead going into the year 2026.
A good one for Arsenal, but then not an Uhuru yet, because we still have, call it, half number of games to play before the season comes to an end. About 19 games played so far. This is just the first stanza of the league, so there are so many games. So it is not yet time for Arsenal fans to start jumping up, because don't forget they are closely being followed by Manchester City, just 2 points separating them. So we've seen Arsenal, holding a grip in the league table with about 4 or less than 5 games to go for them to claim the title, and they still capitulate. So this is too early for Arsenal to start celebrating. But then it is a good statement of intent that truly we want to win the league this season. Return
of Gabriel Magalhaes seemed to have helped the team stabilize. He scored a goal, in fact, the very first goal off set piece. In the past, when he was absent, the team wasn't scoring offset pieces, which they were known for at the beginning of the season. A lot of people think it had to do with his absence. Now he returned, and in the very first game, Arsenal scored again via the corner kick set piece.
I think people are beginning to take cognizance of what seems to be the new strategy for Arsenal in terms of a set-piece advantage, but then other teams are also, up there as well. So I think that secret is no longer a secret. It has been opened, and other teams are also working out on a way to, of course, get a better set-piece result. But then, good one for Arsenal. But that tactics, I think, is not what they should hold on. There should be a total commitment from every angle. You don't just rely on set piece for you to win a game. But then, so far so good. It's been a great one for Arsenal in terms of set piece strength.
They don't only score goals off set piece, they score from open play as well. They score via an own goal system as well. So it seems like Arsenal is scoring goals from all known, let's say, tactics in the season. Meanwhile, in our last reaction from that fixture we saw at the Emirates Stadium last night, Unai Emery, the former coach of Arsenal, who is now the coach of Aston Villa, was seen to have gone straight into the locker rooms without having a handshake with Arteta. Arteta, having to congratulate his team, came up looking for Unai Emery, but he was not seen, and so there was no handshake from the two coaches at the end of that encounter. What will be responsible for that?
I don't know for that. Maybe in the days to come we'll get to hear about that. I don't really want to talk about that for now.
Unai Emery has said that he waited for Arteta, but Arteta went to congratulate his coaches, and he couldn't stay long in the cold, so he had to go straight into the locker room. Do you think that was a plausible excuse?
Excuse or not, I think nothing special about handshake handshake. It's just that
because it's the rule. You have to do that, especially for someone who had worked at the Emirates Stadium before.
We've seen coaches deny a handshake some time ago, but then I think in the spirit of the game, which is football, is about unity. Emery need to do the needful, but for me, I don't want to read any too much meaning to that.
Well, that will it for this morning hour. We'll be back at 6 p.m. Nigerian time, where we'll take an in-depth look at matches coming up, at 5 and 8 p.m. Nigerian time in the African Cup of Nations. We'll keep track on what is happening across Europe as well. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Like I want to say, do I say a happy new year in a few hours.